through genetics. We've gone through how you inherit a trait. We have talked about different mutations that happen, right? We talked about sickle cell anemia. Okay. Was sickle cell anemia one of those mutations that is helpful or harmful?
Both.
Okay. Both. Why do you say both?
Well, if you get like both parts of it from both your parents, then it can cause your blood cells and everything not to work right, your red blood cells. But then if you only get half of it, yes, it can still hurt you a little bit. But it still has the better chance, like you can't get malaria because it deforms the red blood cells, and the malaria parasite doesn't attach to it and stuff.
Okay. Agree? Good. Thank you. All right, so there are beneficial mutations and there are harmful mutations. We talked about two specifically, cystic fibrosis. What was the main system of cystic fibrosis? Do you remember that?
Mucus, thick mucus in the lungs.
The mucus in the lungs makes it difficult to breathe. What about Huntington's disease? We just talked about that one briefly. Do you remember it?
Is that the one that you were talking about, family member had it, or is that something?
Nope, that was Marfan's,
Okay.
but you pulled that, that's another one that we talked about. Huntington's disease was a duplication in the gene, and the more times the gene duplicates,
The worse it got.
or the chromosomal duplication, yeah, the worse the disease got. So, we've talked about a few of the mutations. And we watched a little film on the Human Genome Project. Okay, do you remember that, when we went and they were talking about how they could actually start mapping the DNA code and how they were starting to identify what genes cause what traits. Okay, they don't have it completed yet, right, but they're working on it. So there's been a lot of advancements in science. Do any of you remember what amniocentesis was? Yeah, you're right. Yes, you're all right. They go in, they withdraw fluid from the amniotic sac before birth and test it for genetic disorders. Okay, good. So there's a lot of advancements in science that have been made, and we also discussed some of the ethical questions that go along with those advancements. On your worksheets, you guys have answered questions, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to go through and kind of discuss those questions. I am a different generation than you are, okay? Maybe some of the the ethical or the morals that I've grown up with might be different than what yours are. So we're not going to have a right and wrong answer, okay? This is just going to be an opinion thing. I want to get your point of view on some stuff, and my main goal is that I want you to think about the advancement of science. You know, we always think that it's a good thing to make advancements, but we also need to be responsible for the advancements that we make. Okay, so we have a couple of ground rules before we get started. I want to go over them. Like I said, no one's wrong. Okay, this is everybody's okay. We're not going to say, oh, that was a silly answer, right? Everybody's okay because it's just an opinion. What I do want you to do, we need to be respectful of each other's opinions, okay? We're not going to get into a discussion where we're arguing. How many of you have been watching the political debates? Anybody seen those?
Too many.
I don't
Too
want
many
to watch that.
Oh, all they do, they just yell at each other, right? Talk over each other. Okay, well, we're not going to get into anything like that, right? If you have something to contribute to the conversation, I want you to raise your hand, and we'll be very fair about talking with everyone, okay? And then everyone is going to participate. So if you want to volunteer to participate in the conversation, if you feel like you have something to add to it, raise your hand. I'll call on you. If you don't have anything in particular to say, I might just go around the room and ask, how did you answer this question? And everybody answer the same question. Okay? Are we good with the rules? Okay. So we had 3 scenarios. first one that we, kind of touched on a little bit was, you're a genetic counselor, okay? Your job is to counsel people who come in before they have kids, and they get genetic testing done, and then they want to know what the results are. And it's your job to counsel them on their future families. Okay, whether you think it's a good idea for them to have kids, this is your, you want to give them an informed, you want to inform them so they can make a good decision, okay? So, that's gonna be our first scenario. And the first, I'm gonna sit down too, is that okay with you guys? All right. The first thing that we're going to discuss is, you have a mother that's come in.
Please dismiss the high school basketball girls at this time and also high school cheerleaders. Thank you.
No cheerleaders on this, none? Okay, we're good there. All right, so the mother comes in, and the mother has tested positive as a sickle cell carrier. So that's our first scenario. So you as a genetic counselor, what are you going to recommend? Brady?
Well, first off, if it's just the mom, then I would tell her, there's the possibility of you passing it down to a kid
Mm-hmm.
if you had it,
Mm-hmm.
but, since it's only one parent that has it, and you only get one from each parent, they wouldn't be they wouldn't have two genes that were single cell, genes or whatever, so it wouldn't be a definitely don't have kids sort of deal.
Okay.
And then, like, I would just tell her the risks, and I would assume that she would know what the effects of it were if she's going to get tested.
Okay.
She would know what
Okay,
the
so you
side
think,
effects were.
all right. So what Brady is saying is that because only the mom is affected, then she's a carrier, and her child may or may not be a carrier also. Is that right? Okay. Do you guys remember the Punnett squares? Do you know how to work those? Okay. So if we have a mom who's a carrier and the dad is normal, what's the chance of, what is it? 25%. Okay, 1 in 4 chance. All right. So if then the dad is a carrier, Teslin, what would be your opinion as a counselor? What would you tell him if the dad's a carrier also?
To adopt,
To adopt? Why?
so then you're not passing it on.
Okay. Are all of their children going to be affected? Probably not. Do we need to draw it out?
Wait, well, it depends on, are we still dealing with dominant and recessive? Disorder?
Okay.
So I guess it would depend on if the parent was heterozygous or, homozygous or something like that. If they were both homozygous, then there was 100% chance that their kids would get it, but if they're
Okay. Alicia, if they are both carriers, if the mom and the dad are both carriers, are they heterozygous or homozygous?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. If mother is a carrier and dad is a carrier, are they heterozygous or homozygous?
The parents?
Yes.
How do you know?
Okay. All right. Let's draw it out. Let's say, I know this black marker works good. You remember your Punnett squares, right? Okay. Okay, here's my square. So let's start with mom just being the carrier. Okay, so what would if we do normal for sickle cell is big S and sickle cell affected is a little s. So mom's a carrier, what's she gonna look like?
small s. or the big S is with it?
Okay, let's do mom on this side and we'll do dad on this side.
Okay, so it's
Like this, big S here and small S here, so mom's a carrier.
the, yeah,
Okay.
could be that, or could it be both big S's?
Well, if she only, assume that she only has 2 alleles. Okay, so what's, if dad's normal, then what is he? This is the sickle. Okay, so dad is big S, big S. All right, and if we take him down, what's this one, this child?
Be a carrier, yeah.
Okay, and then here? Okay,
There's a 50% chance of a carrier.
yes, there's a 50% chance that one of their children will be a carrier. Now, could it be, is this the first child or the 4th child? Does that matter? No, it's just a 1 in 4 chance, right? Okay, what if they're both carriers then? All right, and we take them across. Is that right?
You got 100% chance and 275. Or
There's a 50%
or
chance that they'll be
50 and
carrier,
And
and a 25%
100%.
chance that they will have the full disease.
Okay, say it again.
That's what I meant, I
I
just
think
didn't say it right.
I knew that's what I can see, yeah, I can see that.
You attempted.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, I knew what you meant. Okay, so you have 50% chance that you're gonna have a carrier, right? And then you're gonna have 25% chance that they will have the sickle cell disease. And you'll have a 25% chance that they're gonna have a normal child.
I mean, the odds aren't horrible, but still,
Odds are
it is a risk to take.
Okay, so, Mark, I'm gonna ask you a question. If only mom is the carrier, and you have a 25% chance of a baby being a carrier, would you recommend that they go ahead and have children?
Does the dad have sickle cell?
No, just the mom.
And yeah, I'm perfectly, I'd say that they could, because there's no real risks to it. It's if they could keep the disease is a real issue.
Okay,
Plus,
alright,
there's always the bugs of having the malaria.
okay. Would it make a difference if they were living in Africa or we were living in Little River?
Yeah.
Because why?
You don't get malaria here, and
You don't really get, you
medicine.
don't hear many cases of malaria in Kenya.
Okay, so the risk of malaria is not really a big thing here, right? Okay, so now, Jake, mom and dad are both carriers, and you have a 25% chance of the baby having sickle cell anemia and a 50% chance of the babies being carriers. What would you recommend?
I'd say that go ahead and have kids on until that they can.
Okay,
It's a risk no
okay,
matter what
wait,
happens
wait,
to
wait,
the child.
let's take Dylan.
I'd say yeah, they can if they want, but I'd recommend they adopt because there's 75% chance that at least one of them can be a carrier.
Okay,
And 25 for sure.
all right. So then, as a group, would we say that the higher risk of the disease would tend to make us recommend that they not have children?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your opinion?
I mean, I say that it's a risk to have a child with any kind of birth defect, really. That's not really a birth defect, but it's a defect of some kind. I mean, autism is such a high birth defect and everything. I mean, so I'd say, yeah, have it. You can still have a child, you're just taking the risk like any other person is.
Okay, so Simon says, I think that's the first time I said that, that's kinda cool, okay. So Simon's telling us that, we should all like rub our heads, Simon says does anybody ever do that?
Yeah.
All the time?
He's
Okay,
doing great.
Yeah.
alright.
Grade
That's
school
kinda
was
fun.
quite annoying.
And then,
I'll bet, alright.
Then it got upgraded to other nicknames.
Other nicknames, okay. Okay, well, Simon's opinion is that we give them, the parents, an inform them of other risks, and then allow them to make the decision, is that right?
If you're just the counselor, you're just there to inform them, it's not, like, no, don't have the baby, it's bad.
Right, okay. And you say, Dylan, that you would advise against it, and you would just, give them the information and then advise against it. Okay, so let's say, who would give them the information and have them make their own decision? Okay? Who would recommend them not having children? That's actually the same numbers that we had in the first class. It really is, so, okay, I'm curious, alright, that's a good one. So do you understand the risk involved there? And as a genetic counselor, you know, you might be put into some different situations. Let's look at scenario number 2. Should insurance agencies and employers have the right to know what the test results are before hiring or insuring an individual? And I have list 3 reasons yes and 3 reasons no. So let's just go around. Mark, will you tell me a reason yes?
I think they deserve all information when it comes to like if a family starting a baby. Insurance should definitely know anything that could happen to the baby.
Okay. Alright. Dylan, do you have a reason yes?
The insurance company has right to know, so if something does happen, they have money to cover it.
Okay.
So they have to pay more so they can cover when something bad does happen.
Right, Brady?
yes, because it's like in the business world, they would lose money if they were to sign with someone and have a too low or too cheap of an insurance plan, and then they ended up medical bills got caught up or something like that, and they couldn't cover it.
Okay.
The insurance was paying a ton more than they should,
Okay,
than they planned to.
got it. So you're looking at the money?
Yeah.
Alright, so, would the insurance company, do you think the insurance company should have the right to deny them coverage if they found out that their child would possibly, let's say, have sickle cell anemia or Down syndrome?
I don't think it's right that they have a right to do that, but I don't think it's
I
right.
mean, it's not
Okay.
right, but I'm sure they've done it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure
It's business.
It's horrible, but, I mean,
people
yeah,
these
it's
days.
business is a business.
Heslin, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yes? Do you think the insurance companies should be allowed to deny them coverage?
I don't think they should deny it until they know for sure that the kid has it.
Okay, so not denying based on the chance that they might have.
There's no fact that exactly how many kids does that.
Okay, alright, great.
And that's something every insurance company knows. If they're just going to get tested, they can sit on it for a little bit because it's not hurting anything. Because if they say no without knowing the actual results, then they're going to lose business if they end up not having sickle cell.
Okay, Jake, can you give me a reason why an employer or an insurance company should not have the right to know the results?
I guess that's someone's personal information, and if they don't wanna share it, they don't have to.
Okay. Yes,
If they were to, if they were to share it and then it got out, to like certain businesses, like say they were looking for a job or something like that, and someone turned them down because they had seen what the insurance company had filed or something like that, then that would create more problems for the family, the person that was looking for the job.
okay. Alicia, what do you have for a no reason?
I agree with Jay, because I was not that medical results to my employer, although they have to know, so I'm kind of 50-50,
Okay,
I can't decide. But the employer, he has to know if the person is gonna be completely dedicated to his work. So that's a reason for yes.
Okay, all right, so you're saying that the employer has kind of a right to know how they're gonna affect their job,
Yeah.
if they're gonna be out, but your results are your results, and they're not anybody else's business but yours. Okay, because there is patient confidentiality with your doctor now. You can choose to not have your test results disclosed, so that nobody has right to that information besides between you and your doctor. However, if you're wanting to get insurance, then you pretty much have to sign a thing that says you're gonna give them their results, your results. Anybody else come up with anything on that? Would it make a difference if I was extremely needy for a job? Like if my circumstances, I really needed a job, and I'm afraid that if I went to an employer and told them that, I had seizures or some genetic disease that would cause me to lose work hours, would that make a difference? Would I want them to disclose that information?
Well, eventually, that business would find out, especially, if it's not one of those things where you can just call in and say, I'm not gonna be there today, you're gonna have to explain yourself.
Well, maybe it depends on how often it
Imagine if
happens.
they gave you like a demolition
hold-
worker and you were who would be the person who, the big iron ball that they would use to destroy buildings, what if you had a seizure during that? That could cause some serious issues.
Okay, Mark has a good point. He's talking about a liability issue that, what do you have to say?
I think if you have to have seizures or something, that's gonna be on record somewhere for people, has to be some kind of common information that people are gonna have to know. But it's like, you say you have cancer or something, you go on a job, and they don't know about it, that might cause problems in the near future, but if you're having seizures or some major medical condition that can cause major problems at the workplace, they're probably going to know about it.
Okay, so you're saying it's dependent on the degree of severity.
That's a
Even
lie,
if they
that can
don't,
hurt.
even if they don't
Just
ask.
That can hurt other people to extreme amounts, that they should know about that kind of stuff.
Okay, all right, Brady?
And hopefully those people that are like suffering from that have enough common sense to know that they shouldn't apply for this job, because it's one of those things that would put other people at risk. Like you said, if you were pulling a wrecking ball or something like that, you would want to apply to that job because you would know that you would put other people at risk.
Okay, Dylan, did you have a comment?
That was pretty severe.
That was it? Okay, so you're saying the severity of the disease would be one thing. Okay, what if I have the gene that predisposes me to breast cancer? Do I need to disclose that to my future employer?
That's definitely.
Why? Why is that different?
That's not a liability.
That's not really gonna cause problem, like if you may be gone from work, but that's not something that's gonna cause problems at work. Like
Okay.
I
Like
wouldn't think
seizures
it
will
would,
hit like a
right?
truck,
Wait.
breast cancer won't just like drop in there and cause
Yeah, it's not gonna cause.
It's one of those things that you could call it, you would have enough time to call the doctor and.
Okay. What about, what if I go in for genetic testing and I find out I have the gene that predisposes me to breast cancer? Do I tell my insurance company? Jocelyn, what would you do?
I wouldn't tell them.
You wouldn't tell them? Brady?
I would, because it probably, like if you had a mastectomy or whatever it's called, if you were to have one of those, they would probably have to help you pay for that.
Yep.
So then they're gonna want to jack up your insurance rates, I think, for telling them, because then it's a bigger liability to them.
My grandpa had like 8 different kinds of cancers and different stuff.
He doesn't say anything to his Okay, so, Jake, are you gonna tell your employer?
No.
Are you gonna tell your insurance company?
No,
Because why? You already stated your opinion. Can you restate it for me, please? What did you say earlier? Yeah, it was your own personal information, your own personal business, so you weren't gonna share it with anybody. Okay. Anybody, how many of you would tell your boss if you had the gene for breast cancer? And yes, men can get it too.
Yeah. If I tell them,
Yeah.
if they take a child for that, that's, it's like, it's not like you have, you have a better chance of getting it, but it's not like you have it at the moment, and you're perfectly qualified, and they're gonna give you a job, and then they drop out from under you. Yeah, then you can sue them, and then you never have to work again. You're set.
And you're,
And especially if you're a good worker, it's gonna be hard to turn you down. That's a possibility.
Hey, Mark, real quick.
sure.
Mark, do you have a camcorder, Ms. Wallace?
You're gonna have to like borrow Zeke's, I guess, but mine, I checked it like last hour and it's gone. I have no clue.
Is it this one?
Yes, I think so.
I
So
borrowed
you were
it
the thief.
I
Okay.
borrowed it for IPS. She knew
Okay.
I was gonna have it. I was supposed to bring it back and I did not, but
Okay. Thank you.
sorry.
Okay, so we're kind of 50-50 on whether or not we tell. And it depends on the severity and whether it's a real disease or if we are just predisposed. Okay? Do we agree with that conclusion? Okay, last scenario. Design your children. Teslin, what do you think about designer children?
I don't really like the idea.
Okay. No, stop. Why do you say that?
I like the idea of chance and diversity.
Okay. Jake, what's your opinion on it?
No.
Don't do it. Because what?
Because it's not really your decision how a child would be born.
You're gonna leave everything up to chance.
Yeah.
Okay. Alicia, what do you think?
I would probably delete some really bad characteristics. I mean, like if there is a cancer history in my family and there is a really big possibility that my child could have cancer, I would delete this, but I would not add anything else. That it would not be my child.
Okay. Okay. So you're saying take out disease risk,
Yeah.
but let everything else, let nature take its course, right? Okay, Simon, what's your opinion?
I have to agree with you on that. I mean, that is a big fear having children with disease or something that they could happen. Just to stop that and just have yourself a normal child with no physical problems, that would be really nice. But
Okay.
people that go in and change eye color, personality, and everything about it, just,
You have contacts.
Brady, what do you say about it?
I said maybe because like, yeah, that's kind of part of the fun of it, like seeing what your child will turn out to be or what
Okay.
you'll look like.
Mhm.
Because my mom and grandpa and stuff, they all have the butt chin, and they
Yes,
were waiting to
cleft
see
in
if
their
I
chin.
would be,
Okay.
I would be born with it. But I also said, yeah, because like, if you knew your kid was gonna grow up and be unattractive, and you gotta think about how they would feel, because if they're unhappy with the way they look and you had the ability to change that,
Mhm.
why not take it?
Okay.
If you know they're gonna grow up and have a unibrow and
Actually, the
You see
unibrow
that
came up first time
crazy
too.
teeth,
Okay.
why not change that for them so they can have a happier life? Because I know plenty of people that would be a lot happier if they were
2 inches
Unibrow.
taller.
handsome.
2 inches taller.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure
I'd
it's
go
2
for
inches
4.
taller.
I know, I'd go for 4, but I'll take 2.
2 feet.
Dylan,
I'm
what?
down with you.
Okay, Dylan, would you change anything about your child?
Well, heck, I would. I'd make him boss.
You would?
You're a
I
robot.
wrote down, yes, I would. I'd make him like 8 foot tall. Just a complete
Monster.
stud.
Okay,
Making signs.
okay.
like squat 2,000 pounds, bench 1,000.
It's the
Unstoppable
fact
in
of being
every
better than everybody
situation.
else. That's happy for me.
That would make you,
It
okay, so
makes
if you
them
had a child,
Dylan's
okay, hold on.
daddy.
I wanna make sure I understand Dylan's point of view. So, if you have a child that was like super, like Khan from Star Trek, okay, that would be good for you. That's what you want. And that's okay, that's okay. I mean, if you could guarantee that your child would be a professional football player and make millions, or basketball, make millions of dollars.
player, I'm pretty sure.
What if you, Dylan, what if you want to be a dad?
Wait.
Five foot Dylan, and then it's 8 6-foot-tall son.
I'm married
That's-
a
hey.
tall girl.
That's all right, hybrid bigger, we'll go for that. Hold on,
Married one tall girl.
Mark, what would you do?
I would kind of do the same thing with like really, like I take away risks for diseases and stuff and
Uh-huh,
possibly mental retardation.
okay. Yeah, you would want your child to be healthy.
I wouldn't add anything like height or anything. I would want them to be themselves, not what I chose them to be.
Okay,
My way or the highway.
What do you
Let's
say?
not go.
I dare you.
no, let's not.
Film.
So, okay, so how many of us would change something if we could? On your child? I mean, how many of us would enhance our children?
Don't raise your hand.
Male.
That be you? Okay. How many of you would just take away the possibility of disease? Okay, and how many of you would not do anything at all? Okay, that's actually very similar to the numbers that the first class had. So that's interesting to me. Now let me ask you, what about nature versus nurture? Do you believe that a child born naturally is going to have the same chances to become all that they can if you just let them grow up naturally? Or are you wanting to change their environment? Let's say they grow up with special conditions and special features and more enhancements.
I think everyone has the same chance. I mean, I could be wherever I want. You could be wherever you want.
I mean, just some people are gonna have to work harder than
Yeah, you
others.
just,
Okay, what's your,
And that's another thing, the fun of it, seeing them grow up on their own and not, I mean, you wouldn't wanna be babying your kid until he was 18 and ready to move out of the house.
okay.
I think it'd be fun to see how he changed and matured on his own.
That's a good point too. I think personally, my opinion is that I am who I am because of the struggles that I've gone through and the good things that have happened to me and the bad things that have happened to me. And I'm okay with myself right now. Yeah, I'd like to be 2 inches taller, but I can also build a step stool. Okay? And, you know,
Wear 2-inch heels.
wear 2-inch heels, yes. Okay. All right, so Teslin, let me go back to you then. What if, because you're not gonna do anything to change your child, right? Okay, so let's say, well, I guess that would be you and Jake both. What if, you knew ahead of time that your child was gonna have a disease? Would that change? Or are you just gonna leave it up to chance?
I mean, my kid, I'm gonna love it anyway.
Okay,
I sure love it.
Now, okay, so those, let's say, and who said that they would just take up diseases? Okay, what if you removed the gene that coded for diabetes? So your child does not have a risk of getting diabetes. But in turn, that same gene codes for them to be have normal intelligence.
you gotta leave it in there.
So they're gonna,
If it really like changes the person
wait,
who they
wait.
are, then yeah, don't do it. But if it doesn't, if it doesn't affect them like mentally, stuff like that, then it's perfectly fine with me to get rid of it.
Okay,
Surely with a child with diabetes and that,
Diabetes.
you can keep that under control and stuff, but completely changing their mental state.
okay. Now, those of you who would enhance your children, what if by making them more enhanced, they became sterile? They couldn't have children of their own.
then you'd have one amazing kid.
And one really not.
And no grandkids.
You wouldn't have any grandkids, but that would mean Christmas would be a lot more fun. You
No,
would-
wait, why do
You
you
would have
think?
more money to spend on your amazing
I see.
kid.
You go
Okay.
on cruises,
Yeah.
vacations.
You wouldn't have to worry about
People
all
without
the little
kids have a
turds
lot
running
more
around
money
the
than
house
their
knocking
kids.
stuff over
Okay.
all the time.
All right, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that it's okay that they'd be sterile and not have the opportunity to have their own children because their life would be so much better on their own.
And if they were
Right.
their children, they could adopt. I guess
And they
it's
could
up to
adopt.
them.
Okay, so let's decide that that became the norm. Everybody wanted to enhance their children, and so there was a whole generation of sterile children, or the majority of a generation were sterile.
That would cut down the population quite a bit.
what would be the ramification of that? What would be
It'd be an
a result
awesome new
of that?
job.
Half of it is taken in China. I'm looking at the postage site. This is natural selection now. We're cutting everything down. Everyone's gonna be
Yeah,
good.
only the strong will,
Only strong will survive.
yeah.
Well, how are you, okay.
I mean, there's gonna be people that aren't gonna change their children, and yeah, they'll go on to repopulate. But the people that were, not say jealous, but wanted that special child to the max. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have it, but what do they have to prove for it after they're gone? Really nothing. So I mean, the people that kept down to earth about it and didn't change anything, yeah, they're gonna have